Story 6, Part 7. The Students of the Pulse. I woke to a hum beneath the city, low and insistent, like a drum that had been buried for decades and was finally waking. It vibrated through the walls of my apartment, through the floorboards, into my bones. The city was calling me again, and this time I could no longer ignore it. By the time I reached the streets, the night had thickened into a near solid shadow. Fog curled along the sidewalks, and the streetlights flickered as if hesitant to illuminate what had awakened beneath. I felt it before I saw it. The pulse, stronger than ever, guiding shapes that shouldn't exist. The students were waiting. Not in any one place, but everywhere at once, lingering at corners, reflected in glass, slipping between the crowd like smoke. Some looked ordinary at first glance, the way I had seen them before: backpacks, hoodies, earbuds, heads down. But now I noticed the signs, the delay in their movements, the subtle jerks in posture, the flicker of pale eyes when they weren't looking directly at me. I tried to speak to one. A young woman unhalsted, hands in her pockets, hair tucked under a beanie. "Hey. Are you okay?" I asked, voice tight with fear and curiosity. She turned her head. For a heartbeat, I thought she might answer. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Her eyes glimmered pale green, and the hum of the pulse intensified. Then she moved away, deliberately avoiding contact, slipping into an alley as if it had swallowed her whole. I ran after her, heart pounding. The alley seemed to stretch further than it should, longer than the city grid would allow. The fog thickened until I could barely see my hands in front of me. And then I heard them, the students speaking. Not with voices, exactly, but in a kind of shared resonance, words vibrating through the pulse, phrases looping in my mind: follow, learn, become, watch. I realized then that the pulse wasn't just beneath the city, it was in the city. The streets themselves, the subway tunnels, the reflections in every window, the water in every drain, it was all a conduit. The students were conduits too, drawn into the rhythm of something far older, far more deliberate than any human mind could comprehend. One of them stepped forward, a boy with pale eyes that flickered like static. I could feel the pulse in him, and he extended a hand, not in friendship, not in threat, but in invitation. "Do you feel it?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper, though it vibrated in my skull. "Do you hear it? It chooses us. It teaches us. You can learn too." I wanted to pull back, to run, but something deeper than fear rooted me in place. Yes, I felt it. The rhythm beneath the streets. The lesson in every shadow. I felt the pulse in my chest, in my bones, thrumming in sync with the city itself. It was alive, and it had found me. I followed him then, downstairs into subway tunnels, through doors that had no signs, no handles, as if the city itself opened for us. Other students appeared, circling, moving in patterns that didn't match the tracks or walls, forming geometries that made no sense in the physical world but resonated perfectly with the pulse. I was enveloped, learning without instruction, my senses twisting and bending to accommodate something beyond human comprehension. Hours, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell, passed. And the students taught me the first rule: participation is survival. You couldn't watch the pulse without being drawn into it. It demanded action. Small, subtle actions: a hand placed on the wall, a foot in a certain position, a turn of the head that aligned with the invisible rhythm. Each movement amplified the connection, each hesitation weakened it. And then the pulse spoke, or rather, it impressed itself on me. Not in words, but in images, memories, fragments of other students' experiences. Some had vanished entirely, leaving only whispers behind. Others had merged with the pulse, becoming part of its consciousness. The city had absorbed them, teaching and reshaping, selecting and discarding. I understood finally that I was not alone. There were dozens of students, perhaps hundreds, scattered across Chicago, each drawn into lessons at different depths, each shaped by the pulse. And now, I was a student too. The city had claimed me, not in body, but in perception. Every reflection, every shadow, every vibration beneath the streets was a teacher. The pulse did not just exist. It demanded loyalty, focus, and an understanding that the lessons would never end. The city had chosen me to witness, to learn, and, eventually, to guide others. I left the subway tunnels with that knowledge burning in my chest. Above ground, the city appeared normal, streetlights, taxis, the murmur of the few late-night pedestrians, but I knew better. I could see the students everywhere, waiting, learning, moving in rhythm with the pulse. And I knew that my own steps were no longer entirely my own, they were part of something larger, something ancient, something alive. The lessons were multiplying. And the city was just beginning to teach.